Hello, everybody. This is Mike. All right, so every now and then on this channel, it's a good idea to go back to basics. And so, based on comments that have been coming recently, I want to bring us back to what is the purpose of this channel? Why am I making these videos? And what is it that you should be looking for and decide whether or not this is the channel for you? So, first and foremost, I am here for one reason, and that is my own healing. And to be specific, I had to undergo an intense healing from the relationship. So, if you're new to this channel, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist. I am somebody who survived an extremely toxic relationship with somebody who had undiagnosed, untreated borderline personality disorder, probably a bunch of other comorbid things in there as well. You know, the more time I spend away from the relationship and the more time I do research, the more awareness I'm having about just how toxic it was for me. It was easily the most condensed, toxic, painful experience of my entire life, and that's saying a lot. I'm somebody who survived an incredibly dysfunctional childhood, an alcoholic father, severely codependent mother with, at the very least, borderline traits, narcissistic abuse from my older brother, all that kind of stuff, and my own 12-step issues, which I don't share publicly. So I went through dysfunction that almost killed me many times over. And having said that, I still have not experienced anything as condensed, toxically, horrifically damaging as the 4 months plus that I spent dating and having a romantic relationship with an untreated, undiagnosed borderline. The worst experience of my life. It was so toxic that even after the relationship had ended, the damage that had occurred to me was so pervasive, and I had responded so negatively to it. It brought up so many unresolved things within me that I didn't think I was going to recover. And in fact, I don't believe I would have if I hadn't taken aggressive action to heal myself of that relationship. So my goal here is to help people who have been in relationships or currently are in relationships with untreated borderlines, narcissists, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to help you, number one, be able to separate yourself from them, and then to heal your attachment to the relationship. And then outside of that, I want you to do, continue to do what, I have my suggestions on what I think you should continue to do to continue to heal, find love, find relationships, etc. But I definitely learned that when it came to having been enmeshed with a borderline, getting out of the relationship and time away from the relationship by itself will not heal you. There are people that I have talked to who have been out of relationships for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and they are still obsessed. They're still in pain. They are still full of rage. They're still full of vengeance, still full of self-doubt. They still are in love with their borderline ex. And that is my experience as well for me. Had I not done the work, that kind of, and this is, I've got 40 years of experience in 12-step recovery as well as 25 plus years in therapy, meditation. So even after all of that, I was 38 years in all of that. Even after all that, I still was horrifically damaged, and I wasn't able to just turn around and walk away. So What I want to focus on here is, again, bringing us back to what's important. Now, in everybody's defense, I spend a lot of time talking about borderlines. I spend a lot of time talking about their mindset. I talk about what I believe is going on with them. I talk about research that I've come up with. I have my own ideas, which are different from professional psychological. And I do that not because I'm here to talk smack about borderlines. In fact, the truth of the matter is, if you're a borderline watching this, the truth is I have nothing but compassion for them. I have zero negative feelings for them. I'm not angry with them. I do not judge them. I am in awe of how they survive based on the trauma and the challenges that life has given to them. I wouldn't wish being a borderline on anybody, and I do not under any circumstances minimize what they have to go through on a daily basis. So this channel is not about pointing fingers at the borderline. This is not another one of those super empath channels where we talk about how we're going to defeat the narcissist, etc., 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 all that stupid, covert narcissist, codependent garbage. It's not what I'm here to do. But a lot of times people come on this channel, they're angry, they're hurt, and understandably so. The pain is real. The damage that's been done to you is real. And so it's understandable that you want to. In fact, I say it's healthy in the beginning of your healing to judge the borderline. Because if you're judging them, they're evil, they did it to me. If you're in that state, it's your anger trying to separate you. And so in the beginning, you may need that in order to separate, because what happens right before that, let's be honest, but right before you get to the point where you say, they're evil, they did it to me, they're evil geniuses, they're horrible, evil beings. Right before that was you saying, oh my God, I love them so much. Our time together when it was good was the most beautiful. What did I do wrong? How can I fix them? I just want them to be happy. And then once you realize that you're not going to get what you want, it turns into they're evil, horrible people, because you finally realize how deeply damaged you are. But that's not what we're here to do. So if you want to get the most out of this channel, I've got the join button here, which I really don't care if you join or you don't join. I have no issue. People have been asking me from the beginning if I will counsel them. And in the beginning I said no. And so I created this to give you some tools that you're probably not going to find anywhere else. But I ended up deciding to do some coaching here, which basically, I'm not planning. I have no interest in being your therapist, but to help you just get a baseline connection, somebody that understands, and then point into the directions that you can go. That's really all I want to do, because there are other places that you can go that you can heal. And you have to have those tools. And most survivors don't even know the tools exist. In fact, they don't even know that they need those tools. They don't realize, they're walking around, the silent dying, the lonely, wounded heroes. They don't understand that they actually can heal from this. So I just want to point out a couple of comments here. Again, this is not about trying to, this is not an attempt to make anybody look bad or feel bad. It is, let's see what's going on here. Where am I? That's where I want to be. It's actually to point out, first off, that I understand and relate to you, but I want to point out to you the lack of understanding that is actually damaging to you. And again, to take the focus off the borderline. We spend enough time talking about them just so that we can understand. So let me be clear about why I spend so much time in the beginning trying to understand. My earlier videos, if you really want to delve deeply into my musings about what I believe is going on inside of them. Watch my earlier videos, especially the ones that I just, as I'm just getting out of the relationship. And what you see in me is even though I'm talking as though I'm teaching or sharing, I'm really just talking to myself. I first created this channel and I made videos so that I could talk to myself because I was alone. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I had a therapist and all that, but I needed somebody to sit me down and give me some perspective. And that's what those videos are. They're me giving myself perspective. I didn't even intend to make a channel out of this. I uploaded the videos so that I could then watch them. It was then an afterthought. I forgot about it. I went and did the 3 things I tell everybody to do to heal. I did those. In 2 months, I was healed of the relationship. I completely forgot about this channel. I thought it would just fade away. And I started seeing more and more people were subscribing, and I was getting all these messages. Hey, make some more videos. Hey, can I talk to you? Hey, thank you so much. And so I started to continue, and that's why I'm still here. I'm not here because I'm in need of healing or because I'm full of rage or any of that. None of that is true anymore. But when you hear me in the beginning, I'm talking about here's what's going on. They think this, they feel this. Even as I say it, I'm aware that I could be wrong. I didn't care. That kind of trying to figure them out was my way of trying to actually heal. And so there's a fine line. At some point, trying to figure out the borderline stops being helpful because then it turns into actually a way to escape your own codependent narcissism. So while I was doing those videos and I was talking about the borderline this, or she did that, or she was thinking this, or she was feeling this, or she, whatever it is, the other side of that is I'm working the 12 steps and I'm doing the 4th step especially, and I'm looking at my agendas. I'm looking at my agendas. I'm looking at my attachments. I'm looking at my desires. I'm looking at why in the world would I be attracted to somebody so destructive? And later on, more and more of that comes into the videos. But in the beginning, the trying to figure the borderline out was not about judging the borderline, because I knew something was very wrong with her. I knew that she wasn't an evil person. I could feel that something was very tragically, horrifically damaged. And because of the nature of the codependent connection, the enmeshment, and the blindness that the codependent has in relationship with the borderline, because of that, I was also working really, really hard to look at myself. So I'm ruthless with you for those same reasons. I understand that the majority of you on here do not have 40 years of 12-step experience, probably have little or no experience in therapy. And, so I know that your self-defense mechanisms are going haywire, especially the ones talking smack, wanting to pile on the borderline. And you take things that I say out of context to justify your rage, to justify your victimhood. And in the beginning, as I said, that's helpful, but after a certain point, you start getting diminishing returns and it starts working against you. And it actually ensures that you will experience that abuse again later. So I just want to point out some of the differences. And I want, if you're watching this, the main thing that I want to be able to do, excuse me, is to motivate you to do the 3 things. If you're not doing these 3 things, I have no sympathy for you. I have compassion for you. I understand, but I have no sympathy for you, because if you're not willing to take the cure and do something about it, then I'm absolutely not interested in listening to you whine, complain, bitch, or judge. I have 0 tolerance for it. So the 3 things, which I talk about here at the join button, is number one, therapy. You need therapy with a qualified therapist who understands cluster B relationships, borderlines, codependence, etc. Two, work the 12 steps, and the easiest one is CODA, Codependence Anonymous, CODA.org. The third thing is daily meditation. And the point of that is to give you objectivity so that you can separate yourself, you can tolerate your own feelings. It's meditation, by the way, the whole point of meditation is it's a very powerful psychological tool. It gives you the ability to individuate. And individuation is healing. If I can lump all psychological problems into one thing, it's lack of individuation. Meditation is about individuation. It doesn't matter if you're doing Zen meditation or mantra meditation or Tai Chi or yoga or deep breathing or Wim Hof, doesn't matter. The whole point of it is to give you the ability to have all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your impulses, and then have the consciousness to take constructive action. It's the whole point. Anybody who can do that, they will never need to go to therapy. They will never get involved in dysfunctional relationships. Of course, that's a perfection that no human can reach, but that's the whole point. That's the goal. So if you do those three things, you can heal from the relationship. You will never have to look back at the relationship and be full of pain, be full of regret, be full of anger, or be full of false healing. There's a lot of people that talk about, I don't need them anymore, I'm past them, and I can see right through it. I've got a laser beam third eye, I can see right through your bullshit. Perhaps I'm an empath, but that's really because I've done so much work on myself, and I'm not perfect yet, obviously. But I've done so much self-examination in the proper context that I can smell it in anybody else. So this is the thing. You think you're getting away with it, you lying to yourself, but the rest of us can see what's going on. It's very clear. So let me get to the comments again. I want to point out to you again, it's not my intent to make anybody feel bad or look bad, but I want to point out to you what you're missing. Because part of the whole dynamic of YouTube, the whole trolling thing, especially the comment section, is it's a narcissistic bubble. There's no interaction. You get to have your thoughts and your observations, and you throw them out, and you're judge, jury, and it's all really narcissistic. And there's no interchange, there's no interaction. And so the comments kind of work to keep you in your narcissism. That's why I prefer in the live chat that people only ask me questions or share honest feelings. Because the rest of the time, there's an 80 to 90% chance that whatever you say is just going to be your narcissism. And it's going to make me want to get in there with a crowbar and crack that open. So again, I'm ruthless with you because I'm ruthless with myself. So there was one that really got my attention. So somebody was quoting me. All right, so I'm going to tell you the quote or what it is that I said that this person was responding to, which I fully, completely back with everything in my being, which is that what I have learned about borderlines is that unless they find some treatment, and I am up in the air about whether or not borderlines can actually find ultimate treatment. I'm still confused about all of that, and I don't have a final, in stone answer. My feeling and my suspicion right now is that it is very unlikely that borderlines ever truly, completely heal. That they can go through periods of remission, but unless they've been in therapy for at least 10 years, they're not going to have the tools to be able to prevent really destructive actions when they fall out of remission. And so what I say is that if you are with a borderline, if you're married to a borderline, you're dating a borderline, especially because it's more intense if it's romantic. If you are in a romantic relationship with a borderline, the final discard will come. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And at some point, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line, the borderline will discard you, and it will be horrific. And it will be horrific because there may be a period of 10 years of them having gone through remission, where they are able to tolerate your feelings and love you and commit to you and not act out and devalue you or cheat on you. You may go through long periods where there is a honeymoon phase, where they seemingly are healed. But at some point, they will regress, and it'll be as though that nothing has ever changed. It's like an alcoholic or a drug addict. Alcoholism and drug addiction is this way. There are people that can get sober for decades, and then something snaps and they die drunk. They die with a needle in their neck. I used to work in chemical dependency counseling years ago. I saw it firsthand. I could tell you stories of people who got sober, got their life together, got married, had kids, had long periods of perfect this and that, and then at some point something happened, and they reverted back. And it's not only like they had never stopped; it's as if they had been doing it the whole time. One story of one guy who was 40 years sober, 40 years, 40. Some people showed up to his house to take him to an AA meeting, friends that did this every week. And he was one of these guys that sat in the meeting and he would tell people in AA this and that, and he was looked up to as the pillar of sobriety. They came, knocked on the door started creaking open, it was open, they walk in. They found him dead on the floor of his kitchen with a bottle of whiskey completely empty. He had downed the whole thing, and then it killed him. That's what happens to alcoholics. They never truly recover. Many people do stay sober until they die, so they're in a state of remission because they do the work to stay that way, but they never get over it. I think that borderline is that way. That's my opinion. I can't prove it, but based on what I've heard, I think that's what goes on. So I don't recommend getting in a relationship with a borderline under any circumstances. Having said that, that doesn't mean it's impossible. You might find one that doesn't have enough comorbidity to do that. You might find one who's really committed to their healing and their growth, and they can tolerate when they regress, and they can tolerate their internal splits. But I wouldn't take the risk, because what I've seen is that when they discard, the final discard is horrific. And because the longer that you're with them, the more vulnerable you become, the more vulnerable and connected they get to you. And bear in mind, the whole point of borderline, when it comes to romantic relationships, the whole problem, borderlines, it's the lethal problem, as I said last time, isn't that the drama, isn't all the craziness and the drama and the chaos. We can deal with that. We don't like it, of course, but we can deal with it. What we can't deal with is the splitting. When you split on us, when you abandon us, when you cheat on us, when you discard us, we can't tolerate that. That's the worst part. We could, I wouldn't want it, but people, if you want relationships, people can tolerate all the other stuff. The splitting is the thing that does it. And that's what makes a borderline a borderline. There's people who ask the question, well, I think, or say, well, no, borderline personality disorder, really, it's just complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, it is, but that's not what defines it. Some complex post-traumatic stress disorder by itself, people don't split. That's the one thing that's different. Everything else is the same. That one thing is different. What makes a borderline is that they must split on you. They must destroy you. They must discard you. And they do it not because they're evil, not because they're childish, not because they're selfish. So those of you nodding your head and you're telling me, yeah, they're evil, yet that's not why they do it. They do it to prevent being killed by the feelings. The feelings are so overwhelming inside of them that it literally has the potential to kill them, literally physically kill them. And the only way they know how to deal with it is to split. It's a defense mechanism. So whenever I talk about this and you guys want to pile on and throw your judgments on, I shake my head like you didn't listen to me. You didn't hear what I was saying. And I get it. It means you haven't done the work. So I can tell. I can tell if you've done the work. I can instantly tell. The moment that you look for a reason to minimize and judge, because when you judge them, when you say they're selfish, they're evil, they're this, you are minimizing the literal life and death trauma that they are trying to survive. And you are ironically, by pointing out their narcissism, you are ironically coming from your own covert narcissism. Maybe you're not a covert narcissist, but in these moments when you leave these kinds of statements that I'm going to reveal, and you guys pile on top of each other and you think you're being clever, you think you're getting one, and it gives you this feeling of superiority, you're in your covert narcissism whenever you do this. And it doesn't serve you. The whole point of it is it doesn't help you heal. Do you want to heal? You got to do those three things. You don't do those three things, in my experience, you're spitting in the wind. The wind's going in the right direction, you're lucky. If it turns around and comes back on you, you're going to spit on yourself. So let me go just right into that. So somebody said, quote, ultimate and final discard. If and when, so that's quotes, because I talked about that. I said at some point with a borderline, there will be the ultimate and final discard. And this person says, if and when that ever occurs, it's probably after they've chewed up all of your most useful and productive years. When they see you as mostly useless, destroyed, ruined, and drained of any further resources that can be useful to them, it seems they usually will wait out the war of attrition until their partner is dead. 3 thumbs up. So 3 people jumped on that and said, yeah. So they're piling on the poor borderline. That comment takes no responsibility. That person is taking 0 responsibility for themselves. What I glean from that, I don't know because they haven't shared, but what I glean from that is that this is somebody who was with a borderline for a long time, whose experience was that in the relationship, they got chewed up, and I'm sure that you were, and all of your useful and productive years were wasted in that relationship. I believe that's true. But nobody forced you to do it. Nobody put a gun to your head and forced you to keep going back for more torture. Now, I understand why you did. I don't judge you for that. But to make it about that the borderline, if that happens, it's because they've done this. No, the reason why it's happened is because it has gotten to a level of intimacy for them. The level of connection that has happened over the years, the love that you've experienced with them, to much of an extent is real. I mean, they do have psychopathy and other things like that. So it's not, necessarily going to be the same, but there have been moments when they really did love you and feel your love. And what is happening is that they have gotten to a point where if they continue in the relationship in their mind, the level of intimacy, the level of vulnerability for them, it makes them so frightened of being discarded. And that feeling comes from their feeling of loving you. When they start to love you, the immediate reaction is they're afraid they're going to be destroyed. They are brought back to the original wound that happened in infancy, when their life really was on the line. Because bear in mind, infants will die. They die, physically die, if you do not love them, if you do not pick them up, if you do not talk to them and interact with them. If you don't do that, it literally kills them physically. What the borderline is experiencing when they split on you is that original wound. They are brought all the way back. And what it means is they're having that level of intense love for you. And the fear that kicks in and the feeling that they are literally going to die makes them go psychopathic. And they destroy you. And your experience is they've chewed you up. They've taken away all of your productive years, because you've gone back and forth. You give to them, they split on you, you go back. No matter how much love that you pour into them, it doesn't take hold. You don't get back. You end up completely, totally drained of all of your energy and all of your love. And then that's your choice, by the way. You chose to do that. Nobody forced you to do that. But all of those feelings are true, but all you have left now in order to protect yourself is to judge them. Because the bottom line of that comment, the unconscious message of that comment is, if they just loved me, because I know they can, if they just gave back to me, which I know they can, it would all be okay. But they didn't. I gave the best years of my life to them, and they could have loved me, and they didn't. And it means you don't see what happened. So when I sit back and I talk about the borderline, and I talk about, what I just did now, going in and telling you, here's what's happening, which I really can't say for sure that's what it is. I'm convinced it is. I feel pretty confident I'm right about that. But the only reason I'm doing that is so you can understand, number one, it's not about you. And number two, if you understand it's a mental illness beyond your control and beyond theirs, there's no amount of them growing up and getting it together that is going to be able to give them the ability to love you the way you want to be loved. When you can understand that, you can separate. You can detach. Because even after the relationship is over, if you haven't done those three things, or whatever it is that you need to do to detach, you're still in it. It's still draining you. And it's you're the one doing it. You're the one still wanting to recapture the love you didn't get as a little kid. And you want to get it through that borderline. And if you can understand, they can't give it to you. It's literally a death sentence for them. And you can understand that, then you can get out. You can get out hopefully with love and detachment. But if it takes in the beginning for you to be furious with them and to think that they're evil geniuses in the beginning, whatever it takes to get you out. But then you have to come to understand your part and their part. So it's not that they've drained you, that they're just like, oh, I have no use for that person anymore. You make it sound like it's nothing to them. Like, yeah, all right, moving on. When they met you, they expected you to be the one that was going to save them. They wanted the same thing that you wanted. So again, this is your narcissism. Your narcissism that ironically, this comment means you're not done. It means you still love your borderline, and if they came back and apologized, you take them back. You can negate that and say, no, I'm done, all you want, but I have I have psychic vision. I can see into, I'm kidding, of course. I can see into that. I can see it. You're not done. So it tells me you haven't done the work. You haven't done the 3 things that I recommend. Let's see. There was another comment that I wanted to talk about. Here's another one. Again, this person is then going to take, similar to what I just said, they're going to take borderlines, because one of the things I said last time is that borderlines do feel. And I was making the point that borderlines make the argument, they say, no, we're not psychopaths. We actually do feel, we feel too much. We do have empathy. And there are people who make the distinction between borderlines and narcissists, and again, this is general and it's not entirely true, but it helps people to classify things. And people will say, the difference between a borderline and a narcissist is that a borderline has empathy and narcissists do not. And that statement is just false on both sides. Narcissists also have empathy. But my point was that empathy is meaningless if it doesn't follow through with consistent loving actions. So while I agree that borderlines have empathy, in fact, they may have intense empathy. In fact, it might be crippling empathy. They might feel so intensely for you. They might feel so sorry for you or feel such love for you or such, it might be too much for them to handle. And so when they respond and they say, no, you don't understand, we have too much empathy, they're not focusing on what's important about that, which is your empathy in terms of relationships is meaningless if you can't follow through on it. And that's what makes a borderline, is that they can't follow through. The empathy that they feel when they do feel it doesn't have a strong enough or long-lasting impact on them so that when they go through their psychopathy, because borderlines aren't different than healthy humans, it's just a level of intensity. Normal humans go through the same thing that borderlines do. They go through idealization and devaluation. There's always a clash in everybody's psyche all the time, positive and negative all the time. We all have, that's why people get angry when they break up and that person's a jerk and they break up with them. It's a form of splitting, although it's a completely different dynamic, but it's the same thing. So borderlines are right. They feel too intensely, and that's why they can't regulate their behavior. We talk about their inability to regulate their emotions, but it's really their behavior that is the problem. We don't care that you have strong emotions. In other words, you won't drive us away that you have these vacillating emotions, that you have mood swings. That's not enough to drive us away. What drives us away is the actions that you take. That's what drives us away. Because we all go through it. We might not have the intensity, or we might not have the experience of the intensity. The truth is we feel things just as intensely as you do. But we may not have the experience of being overwhelmed about the emotions like you do. But it's the inability to take constructive action. That's the problem. It's the biggest problem. So anyway, I forgot what I was saying about that, but let's get to the... so this person is going to do the same thing. So anyway, this person is responding. I was saying that for borderlines, it's not that they don't have empathy. They do have empathy. They have a lot of empathy, but the problem is that empathy isn't enough to keep them from acting out destructively when they split. So this person says, yes, borderlines do feel too much, and they feel things more strongly than non-borderlines, but what they're, quote, feeling too much, unquote, isn't empathy. What they're feeling too much is about things that affect them, which isn't empathy, because it's only about things that have to do with them. So this person is basically saying that they don't have empathy because they're narcissistic. This person is actually saying they're not thinking about you. Now, yes, borderlines are, because they're regressed in infancy, they are selfish and narcissistic, and they do focus on themselves. But again, what you have just revealed to me, this is why I said it's not in your best interest to dump your opinion on my channel, because I'm going to know the level of the work that you've done. I'm going to know if you're in denial. I'm going to know if you're in your codependent narcissism or if you're healing. This person hasn't done the work. I don't know what work they have done, but they haven't achieved healing. They're still angry. They're still wanting to get back. And the way they do that is by minimizing and judging the borderline. So what you're talking about is right. That isn't empathy. Empathy means that you feel for somebody else. What you're describing is narcissism. And that's exactly what you're exhibiting. What you're exhibiting is they didn't love you. And so since they didn't love you, you come to the conclusion that they're selfish. They're selfish, they're childish, they're narcissistic because I didn't get what I want. I'm not going to talk about my pain about not getting the fact that I was in love with this person and I wanted them to love me back, and it tears me apart and it makes me feel like a little kid, and it reminds me of my parents who didn't spend. You're not talking about that, which is the real issue. You now just want to focus on what you didn't get, and you're going to point fingers at the borderline and say they don't have empathy because they're selfish. And you don't see how selfish you're being in that moment. Again, you haven't done the work. I can see it. Because if you've done the work, it means you've looked at yourself. You've looked at yourself, because this is the second half. The first videos that I made, you see me talking about the borderline. You see me working really hard. Just you can see the smoke coming out of my ears as I'm trying to figure out why she did what she did and what must be horrifically broken inside of her for her to do that, so that I can make sense of it, because it doesn't make sense what she was doing. But what you don't see on the other end is me writing fourth steps where I talk about what I really wanted from her was I wanted her to be the perfect woman. When she was love bombing me and tears were coming down my face because she was sitting there, baking cookies for me and giving me foot massages and promising to be the perfect woman, and I was crying because, oh my God, I found it. What I didn't realize is how I wanted to be completely, utterly loved, and her love seemed so perfect. And I selfishly, childishly, narcissistically wanted that for myself. And then she split. And then, of course, I was devastated. I was devastated because, understandably, it hurts when somebody devalues you. But the other one is I was disappointed because I didn't get what I wanted. And there's nothing in your comment here about your judgment on them not having empathy because they're so selfish. There's nothing in there that reveals that how deeply hurt you were because you didn't get what you wanted. Not only did you not get what you wanted and it was so horrifically damaging to you, but your need to get your needs met was so intense, you kept going back for more for probably years. And at no point did you have the empathy to think about the borderline and go, that person's not capable of giving me what I want. That's empathy. Getting rid of yourself, climbing inside somebody else and going, there's something really broken here. I'm wasting my time. Oh, I'm getting all hurt for nothing. They're not capable. How selfish of me to demand somebody who can't love me to love me. Do you know, I can remember now, again, with hindsight, hindsight is 20/20 vision. I can remember driving back from, I won't get into exactly what happened, but I drove a bunch of hours, took her somewhere to get something that she needed because of all kinds of craziness and medication, etc. And, and I was drained and I was upset and I was angry and I was silent in the car as I was driving back. And I could tell she was feeling very remorseful. And so on the way back, she was trying very hard to pacify me. by giving me promises of what she's going to do for me, how she's going to be perfect, and all of that. And I'm thinking, yeah, I can't wait till that happens. So she knew. But at the time and right after, what I thought was, oh, she's manipulating me. She's lying to me. She's just trying to set me up so she can knock me down. So I understand why you guys feel that way, because I felt the same. But I was still in it. And I was still wrapped up in my selfish narcissism. And I didn't see that what I wanted her to be the perfect mom. I wanted her to make right all the things that my mom did wrong. I wanted her to fill in the tremendous sadness within me at the loss of my soulmate, who really was all those things and just had died a couple years earlier. So she really wanted to, but what she didn't have the ability to know was she didn't have the ability to go, I feel really bad. I know that I hurt you. I really want to love you. I really want you to be happy. I can't do it. And to her credit, at one point, she had said, do you want to come in and she offered to do something very nice for me. And I said, no, why don't you take a nap and we'll get together later. That was a big mistake. And so called her later and she said, I don't feel comfortable giving to you. Now I took that really hard, but I could hear in her voice the honesty and the pain. She was being honest with me. She was saying, I can't, I don't have it. I really want to just focus on you and give to you, but I can't do it. Of course, that's not what I heard at the time, because I had my selfish desires. So I know you guys think you're being cute. I know you think you're being clever when you drop these comments about how they're this and how that. You take something I say out of context and you use it to make yourself feel superior by judging and minimizing them, and then the rest of you pile on with your thumbs up. I get it, but that's not what I'm here to do. And honestly, if I feel like I'm not making progress, I'll shut the channel down. I do think I am making progress, so I'm not threatening to do that anytime soon, but I'm just letting you know. If I thought that was the case, I would stop doing it. So I'm happy to take some questions. Again, I prefer honest questions and honest sharing of feelings. So let's take a look. I'm going to start from the bottom up here. If you have a question, bear in mind, there's a bunch of other people. Write the word question in all caps. Otherwise, I may miss it. So if you're new to the channel, write the word question and then write your honest question, and I'll do my best to answer it. Let's see what else. I can't tell. So there's a question mark on the end of this. Kendra says, what codependent part of us is the part that subconsciously only focuses on the good euphoric highs of the borderline and either blocks out or dismisses the manipulation? I don't understand your question. It does sound to me like you're new to my channel, and it does sound to me like you haven't done the 3 things that I tell you in the beginning that I recommend that you do. That's not your fault. I can tell by reading it you haven't done that. What is your question is, first off, why do you need to compartmentalize yourself? There's not like a codependent part and a non-codependent part. You're codependent. So just own it. Don't try and make it something outside of you. So there's not a codependent part of you. And this is kind of a pain in the ass, but subconscious and unconscious are 2 different things. What you really mean by using the word subconscious, you really mean to say unconscious. That's not your fault. 99% of people get it wrong. Subconscious is actually, you have access to your subconscious. You don't have conscious access to your unconscious. But it's the unconscious that really is doing all the heavy lifting here. So what is the part that subconsciously only focuses on the good? It's not a part of you. It's just you. Just get into your feelings. We all do it. We all focus on the positive. You focus on the love bombing because you have a desire to be loved. It's not rocket science. It's pretty easy to figure out. You don't focus on the splitting because your desire to hopefully get the love you want from them is stronger than the reality of you that says, wait a minute, this person isn't capable. In other words, it's your narcissism. It's your narcissism that doesn't allow you to step back and go, wait a minute, the behavior of this person is pretty clear. They can't love me the way I want. In fact, I've been with this person for a year, and can I honestly say that this person has been there when I really needed them? Have they been able to follow through? No, actually never. They have never been able to follow through 100%. So if I just look at it objectively, they're obviously not capable. And when you do that, who gives a crap what their motivations are? The practical reality is you're not getting what you want. So it's not their fault that you're choosing to show up and get hurt. There must be something broken in you that you're seeing something that isn't there. So you're asking me what part this, what part that. Just get honest with your feelings. If you go deep into your feelings and get honest in your vulnerable feelings, instead of focusing on how you're trying to fix them and how you do everything for them and why don't they, that you want something, you want them to love you. And you're not getting it. You're not getting what you want. Let's see what else. Chatasya Mehuzo, again, if you have, oh, you did write question. Do me a favor, write the word question in all caps so that I don't miss it. You said, hi, me again. I was still curious about what you said. What do you mean by BPD, narcissistically enraged by being bored? I don't remember the context. So, I mean, there was a context to it. I don't know why you're focusing on that so much. Why is that? I mean, are you a borderline? Are you a partner of a borderline? Why is it so important to you that you figure out why BPDs might be enraged when they say they're bored? The truth is, a lot of people, when they say they're bored, what they really mean is that they're angry. And they, you know, it's a way of devaluing somebody. You're boring me. So I don't know what I meant. I don't know what the context was, and I'm not sure why this is such an obsession for you, why you need to figure that out. If you can share your feelings about it, I might be better able to help you solve whatever the real problem is. Let's see what else. All right. Hi, Barak. I'm glad that you're taking my advice seriously. I hope that it helps you. Sean Bigelow says, watched a few of your vids, found them very helpful. Thanks for doing what you do, not healed, but getting there. Well, so share with us what you're doing to accomplish your healing. Are you doing the 3 things? How is it that, you know, what healing, what are you doing that's helping you heal? Okay, let's see what else. Chatasya says, I'm an ex-partner of a BPD. My BPD partner left me because he's bored with me. How do you know he's bored with you? Is that what he said? So here's something important. First off, Chatasya, are you doing the work? My suspicion is you're not. Because the focus of that question, you know, whenever somebody asks why, they're trying to gain control. They think that if they know the reason why, they'll have some leg up and be able to have control over the situation to get what they want. You know, I stopped asking why a long time ago. You know, when I was, one of the things when I was, a young man, and of course they're having all kinds of relationship problems, and women, you know, it was challenging finding, for me anyway, it was challenging finding a good relationship. And so if a woman broke up with me, I would want to know why. Why did you break up with me? And, you know, after getting various responses of why, it didn't change anything. And I got honest with myself, and I realized that I'm asking the question why because I think if I know the reason, I can fix it. And that way I can control them and make them want to be with me. And then when I realized that usually people's reasons for breaking up with you are just excuses. And the point is, the only thing that matters is that they've they've rejected you. And so it doesn't matter why. At some point, it doesn't matter why. It's over. So when you're asking me, first off, you're an ex-partner of a borderline. So if you understand what borderline personality disorder is, then you understand that they're incapable of attaching, they're incapable of love, and that they will discard you for no reason other than that's what borderlines do. So who gives a shit what he said? He said he's bored. And so what? It means nothing. That's the reason he came up with. It may or may not be accurate, but even if it's true he got bored with you, so fucking what? The real question is, why are you wasting your energy on somebody who doesn't appreciate you? Why are you wasting your energy even thinking about somebody who was bored with you? You're a woman, I guarantee you, there are thousands of men out there who would find you absolutely mesmerizingly interesting. Why aren't you focusing on them? That's the real thing. Why are you focusing on the one guy who got bored with you and got rid of you? Why are you still thinking about it? Because there's something in you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It means nothing. My borderline discarded me because of one word. I said 2 words. I said one phrase. I said the phrase magical thinking. That was it. She went from literally one moment of being my best friend, my lover, who was going to be with me forever. She was going to give me her car. She loved me more than anybody else. You can stay here whenever you want. I'm going to be here for you for the rest of your life. To, I can't have anything to do with you. You're trying to destroy me. You're the most evil person. You're toxic to me. I can never talk to you again. It literally from one phrase. It doesn't matter what the fuck he said. It has nothing to do with you. And again, so you're just saying, so he's borderline, and borderlines are attracted to narcissists. So if you want to know why he's bored with you because you loved him. He wants to be with a narcissist because a narcissist is incapable of intimacy, so that he never splits. The reason why borderlines split is because of the intimacy. So you're not a narcissist, and so you believe him when he says what I want is to be loved, and so you love him. And he likes that in the beginning. He feeds off of it until it gets too real, and then he must split. And so his experience is he has this feeling of being bored. So what? And so he chases after the narcissist because the narcissist can never truly have love or intimacy, and so he never has to split. Although he does, because he goes back between the narcissist and you and whoever else. So the real problem is you're asking me about him and you're taking no awareness of asking yourself, why am I with such a fucked up person? Why am I with somebody that is so incapable of loving me? What the hell is wrong with me? I'm going to go to therapy, I'm going to work the 12 steps, and I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to find out. If you can turn the focus on yourself, you can heal. Asking ridiculous questions about a person with a mental illness and trying to find the rational reasons for their behavior, you'll never get what you want. It's a waste of time. Sean Bigelow says, I guess in response to a question I had, my screen is freezing. He says, thanks for doing what you do, not healed but getting there. So I must have said, what are you doing? And he says, not doing the 3 things yet. So even, I mean, you're on my channel, you know that that's what I'm going to say. Here's the thing, Sean, my friend, the kindest thing I can say to you is that I have no sympathy for you. Because you're on this channel, obviously, because you've been devastated by the toxic abuse of a borderline. You obviously know that that abuse and that toxicity within you isn't going away. I have given you the pill. I've given you the cure. Not only have I given you the cure, but it's free and you can do it right now. You've been on my channel long enough and you haven't taken the cure. So then my next question is, why do you want to stay in pain? Because this is the other part of it. This is what, people who leave the kind of comments that I pointed out, what they're not acknowledging, admitting, or even aware of is that they're addicted to the pain. They're addicted. Chatasya also, I'm with you 100%. It's not a judgment. She's addicted to the pain and the abuse. You give her a real man who will love her and treat her kindly, she'll be bored with him. She'll want the borderline because he's more exciting. The reason why we like borderlines because it gives us an opportunity to get involved in our own narcissistic feelings of love. So we can get high off the oxytocin of loving somebody else. And it's really just masturbation. We're doing it so we can feel the intense feelings. But it's a whole different thing when somebody turns around and loves you back. Then you're responsible. Then you have to look at yourself. Then you have to work through your pain. You have to work through your issues. So Sean, you're addicted to being in pain. Otherwise, if you really, truly were healthy and wanted to be healthy, when I hand you the cure, you would immediately go to test out to see if it works. Maybe this won't work, but I'm going to go, so there's really nothing you can say that will justify why you haven't done the 3 things yet. Having said that, I haven't read your whole comment yet. Not doing the 3 things yet. I do finally accept that I am codependent and that I played a part in staying with going back to my BPD ex-girlfriend and that not everything is her fault. Well, good. So you basically worked step 1. So there's 11 more. That intellectual awareness is not enough to heal you. So the truth is, you say, I'm not healed yet, but I'm on my way. I agree. If you've got that, you're part of the way. But again, that's like saying, I have this incurable, boil on my arm, and I'm in the hospital waiting room, so I'm healing. Well, you're not healing yet. You're in the place where the healing is administered, but you haven't gotten the healing yet. So you actually have to do the work. If you do the work, then when you come on and make a statement about how you're healing, I'm going to turn around and support you. But until you do the work, it's kind of meaningless. Okay? You're just, why? Then the question is, why haven't you done it yet? What's keeping you? All right. Okay, so he agrees that he's addicted to the pain. Well, yeah. Very good. All right, so I don't see any other questions here. I just got back from surfing, so I'm tired. I'm going to take a nap. I think that's it for me. I don't have anything else I want to say. Other than, click the join button at the super empath level or above, and then you'll get access to members only videos. I teach you a couple of very powerful breath meditations, which will allow you to have access to your feelings without feeling the need to act on them. It's a really helpful thing when you're jonesing for wanting to go on to Facebook and see what she's doing and give her a call back or unblock her number for an hour to see if she's going to try and call you. Those kind of meditations are really helpful to have all your feelings without having to act on them. And I do have the coaching here, freedom.thunderwizard.com. You can go there if you want. Again, I'm not trying to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm really just there to sort of help you figure out which direction to go and just give you that extra little kick in the butt so that you can go do what you need to do to take care of yourself. All right, is that it? I think that's it. All right, guys, I will see you next time. Take good care of yourselves. Let's see, what am I looking for? I'm looking for my end screen, which is way down here somewhere. There it is. Oops.